I met him when I was 18. He was 24. The age gap didn't seem that big at the time, and I thought I was mature enough to handle a real man. God, I was so naive. From the moment we met, there was this intense pull. He looked at me like I was a secret only he understood. When he laughed, it felt like I was being invited into something exclusive, something only a chosen few could experience. And I fell for it, hard, fast, without a single second thought. He told me he was just out of something complicated. And I believed him. I thought that made him sensitive, not emotionally unavailable. I thought he was layered, not deceptive. We started hanging out, then going on dates. Late-night drives. Cheap fast food and expensive words. Passionate kisses that always ended with him leaving just a little too soon. But it didn't matter, I was under his spell. He had this pink wristband he always wore. I asked about it once, and he told me it was from a cousin overseas. I didn't think much of it. Just one of those sentimental things people wear. Something from childhood maybe, or family tradition. Looking back, I feel so stupid for not questioning it harder. But love makes you blind, especially when you're young and craving attention from someone who seems to see right through you. I remember Valentine's Day, my first time. I gave him everything. I had spent the whole week preparing, choosing lingerie I thought he'd like, cleaning my room, shaving every inch of my body, brushing my teeth 3 times before he arrived. Felt like a moment, my moment. I thought that night meant something, that it would bond us, make us closer. I even lit candles, like this was some goddamn movie. He left at 1 a.m., no explanation, no cuddles, just zipped up his jeans, kissed my forehead, and said he had to be somewhere early. I didn't know that somewhere was his girlfriend's bed. Yeah. His girlfriend. I didn't know at the time, of course. I didn't know that while I was picking out which playlist to play while we kissed. He was planning a 2-week trip to South Korea with her. He told me he was traveling with someone, said it vaguely, almost shyly, like he was embarrassed to admit he had a friend. I didn't question it. I thought he was mysterious. I was such a dumbass. And the worst part, even after all the red flags, the ghosting, the vanishing acts, the random unfollows and refollows on Instagram, I still held on. He'd disappear for days and come back like nothing happened. He'd compliment how I looked, but never how I was. It was always about my body, my skin, my thighs, my lips, never about my laugh or my thoughts or my stories. And still, I clung to him like he was the last piece of driftwood in the middle of an emotional ocean. I was drowning, but I thought he was saving me. When I finally learned the truth, when my mom found out, when the dots connected, when the lies began to unravel, I still wasn't ready to let go. She told me that he lived with a girl, that the house he called home was hers, that she was paying the rent, that they even had a dog together. A dog. That's when something inside me cracked. But it didn't break. Not yet. I still texted him. I still waited. I still hoped. I confronted him, shaking. My fingers were trembling as I typed. My heart beat so loud it hurt. I told him I knew everything, that he was with someone else, that I had been the side girl, the distraction, the backup. And you know what he said? He said he was sorry, that it wouldn't happen again, that he had fallen in love with me and wanted a future together. My hands were numb, my body frozen, but still some part of me wanted to believe him. I asked him about her, about the girl he lived with, the one he went to Korea with. He wouldn't answer. It's complicated, he said. I asked if she knew about me. He said, yeah, kinda. I think she knows. I think she knows. What the hell does that even mean? When I asked if he was still sleeping with her, he looked at me and said, again, it's complicated. We agreed to take a break, to think about what we wanted, that we'd message again in a few weeks. I wish I could go back to that version of myself, the one who still thought he might be telling the truth and scream, he is a liar. He is using you. He is not broken. He is breaking you. But I couldn't see it. Not yet. The spell wasn't broken. After that confrontation, I thought maybe we could work something out. Maybe he'd leave her. Maybe I'd be the one he chose. It's humiliating to even admit I thought that. But I did. I really, truly did. He didn't text me for days after that conversation. And when I reached out again, he replied coldly, like I was some stranger bothering him. The warmth was gone. No more sweet words. No more "I miss you" texts at 2 a.m. He had retreated into the fog again, and I was left standing on the shore, looking out into nothing. But I couldn't let go. I check his Instagram every night like an addict, refreshing, looking for new stories, zooming in on every blurry reflection, searching for her in the background, looking for signs, clues, evidence, anything. I even saw her posts once before she blocked me. I remember her smiling with that dog they shared, tagging him, writing things like "my love" and "our home." My stomach turned. I felt like vomiting. That was her life, her reality, and I was just some late-night visit after he was done hanging out with his bros. And I still missed him. I dreamt about him constantly. I'd wake up with my pillow wet from crying in my sleep. I started losing sleep, losing weight, losing myself. My friends told me he was a piece of shit, that I deserved better. I nodded and said, "I know," but I didn't really believe it. I started remembering things differently, like how he never really asked about me, not the real me. He didn't know what books I liked or what scared me. He didn't know that I used to draw when I was little or that I write poetry at 3 a.m. when I can't sleep. He never asked. He didn't care. He only knew my body, my curves, my moans, not my mind. And yet, I kept holding on to those tiny moments of fake intimacy, like they were enough. The way he'd kiss my shoulder, the way he'd put on one of our songs while undressing me, the way he'd whisper my name when he came. It all felt real, but it wasn't. It was a performance. I was an audience of one, and I applauded him every damn time. The breaking point didn't come immediately, came slowly like a fog lifting. It started with anger, real hot anger, the kind that simmers under the skin and bubbles in your gut. The kind you feel when you realize someone didn't just hurt you, they made you hurt yourself. He had used me like a toy he could pull out of a drawer when bored. He'd come over late, after he was done with his real life, and treat me like some midnight fantasy. And I let him. I told myself it was temporary, that it would get better, that he was just going through something. I was always making excuses for him. He ghosted me once for 4 days. No explanation. Then showed up at my place with fast food and that stupid smirk. "Missed me?" he said, as if the past 4 days hadn't been filled with panic attacks and overanalyzing every message I'd ever sent. I told him once that I had been essayed as a child. Took everything in me to say it. My chest was tight, my voice shaking. You know what he said? Nothing. He just shrugged and changed the subject to his own childhood trauma. No sympathy, no warmth. No, I'm sorry. It was always about him, his past, his pain, his needs, and I still tried to love him harder, thinking if I gave him more, maybe he'd finally give something back. He never did. But the moment I started to wake up was a stupid one, just a passing comment. He was talking about Greek mythology. Out of nowhere, he said, "Zeus is the best god. Man had dozens of women. What a legend." He laughed after saying that. That weird, cocky laugh he had. I laughed too, but inside, I wanted to scream. I wanted to say, "You're not a god. You're not even a decent man." But I didn't say it. Not yet. I wasn't strong enough then. I remember the last time I saw him before everything shattered. He came over late again, laid in my bed, played that same playlist. He looked me in the eye and told me I was the only person who gets him. I wanted to believe that so badly, so I nodded, and I let him stay. When he left the next morning, I sat in my room for hours. The sheets smelled like him. My whole room did, and I hated that I loved it. That day, I finally did the thing I should have done months earlier. I went back through every message, every picture, every screenshot. I told myself, look again. Look until you see what you've been ignoring. And I did. That's when I saw the pink wristband in a post I had saved. And my whole world shifted. It was a regular night. Nothing special. I was lying in bed, crying like usual, scrolling through our old texts, rereading messages I had memorized by heart. I missed him. Still, after everything, that's the worst part. When someone treats you like shit and your heart still wants them. I was whispering things to myself like, he didn't mean to hurt me, and maybe he's confused, and the absolute classic, maybe I just wasn't enough. I had my blanket wrapped around me like armor, but nothing could protect me from my own memories. And then I saw it. The photo. A screenshot I had taken months earlier, right before I confronted him, back when I still had access to her Instagram. She had tagged him in a few posts, and I'd saved them in secret. I zoomed in, for the 100th time, and that's when I noticed the pink wristband again, the one he always wore. The one he told me was from some cousin overseas. But this time I looked at it with sharper eyes. There, right on the pink band, was a small letter. Her first initial. I froze. You know that feeling when your stomach just drops like an elevator plummeting too fast? That hollow rush of adrenaline that makes your ears ring? That's what I felt. My mouth was dry, my throat closed, and my heart was breaking all over again. But this time, in a different way. This wasn't just a random bracelet. This was a love token, piece of her, something she had made or given to him, and he wore it every single time he came to see me. He wore her love while he touched my skin. I jumped up and went back to the screenshots of her. And there it was, in one of her mirror selfies, a black wristband. Identical design. Same thickness, same style, just black. It didn't even matter that the angle didn't show the letter on hers. I knew, deep in my gut, I knew. They had matching wristbands. Couple wristbands. The kind you make for each other when you're obsessed and cheesy and in love. And he wore hers in my bed. My tears stopped. Just like that. I wasn't sad anymore. I was furious. I suddenly saw it all so clearly. How many nights had I stared at that bracelet, believing his lie about a cousin overseas? How many times had he touched me with hands that held onto her? How many times had I kissed his wrist, the very spot where her name sat? I felt like I had been brainwashed. And finally, the spell was broken. I remembered all the times he came over and ate from my dishes. The way he used my shampoo in the shower. The way he wrapped himself in my blanket and fell asleep while I stared at the ceiling wondering if he'd ever really stay. He had drank from my cups, slept in my bed, used my body, listened to my playlists, all while wearing her symbol of love. I thought of all the times he played innocent, shrugged off questions, turned everything into a joke, flipped it back on me. He'd say things like, "You're overthinking again," or, "Why do you always ruin a good thing?" And I believed him. I believed him, like a fool. He gaslit me into thinking I was the problem, that my anxiety was paranoia, that my gut instinct was just drama. And I let him twist my sense of reality into knots. Until now. Now I could finally see he was never broken. He was never confused. He was calculated, manipulative. He knew exactly what he was doing. Juggling two women, living in one's house, sleeping in the other's bed, feeding off both our love while giving nothing real in return. So I blocked him. Everything. His number, his Instagram, every platform, every trace. And this time I didn't feel sad. I felt free. Not instantly, of course. My hands were still shaking. My body still remembered him. But my mind had finally caught up. And I could finally say it. I don't love him anymore. He didn't deserve my love. He never did. He was a liar, a user, a thief of emotions. And I was finally done. After I blocked him, it was quiet, too quiet. For months, my life had been wrapped in the chaos of him, waiting for his replies, interpreting his silences, obsessing over his movements, his stories, his stupid wristband. He had become the sun I orbited, and suddenly the sun just went out. And you'd think I'd feel peace. But at first, it felt like withdrawal, like I was detoxing from a drug. I'd reach for my phone to check if he had messaged. Then remember, he couldn't. I had blocked him. I'd open Instagram, muscle memory guiding my fingers to his profile, only to land on the void I had created. No contact. No closure. Just silence. It hurt. It really did. Even after everything I knew. Even after the truth had slapped me in the face. I still grieved what we could have been. That fantasy I'd built. The one where he left her, apologized genuinely, and begged to be better. The one where he finally saw me, really saw me. Not just my body, not just my softness, but the entire storm I carried. But that was never going to happen, because he didn't want love. He wanted control. I started unpacking the memories one by one, like pulling thorns from my skin. The night he told me I was different, but couldn't explain how. The time I asked him about his childhood, and he turned it into a pity monologue about how everyone leaves him. The way he'd make sex feel like a transaction. How he never kissed me in public. Never introduced me to his friends. Never talked about the future unless it was vague, distant, and hollow. I was never his partner. I was a pit stop, an escape, something to fill the time between his real life and the life he secretly hated. And the thing that makes me burn the most? He probably told her the same stories, the same jokes, the same trauma-bonding narratives he told me. He probably played the same songs. He probably used the same damn playlist. He probably fed her the same lines about Zeus being the coolest Greek god, because he had many women. It wasn't a one-time mistake. It was a pattern that I had fallen into like quicksand. And once I realized that, I started healing. Slowly, messily, but I did. I wrote about him, pages and pages. Not just what he did, but what it made me feel. I wrote about the version of myself that tried to fix a broken man who was never broken, just cruel. I wrote about the girl who thought love meant sacrifice. The girl who thought she had to earn affection. The girl who equated pain with passion. I started going outside more. Reconnecting with old friends I had distanced myself from during the height of my obsession. I began to laugh again, really laugh, and for the first time in a long while it wasn't followed by guilt or a desire to text him. But healing is weird. It doesn't happen in a straight line. There were still days I'd see his face in my dreams. Still moments I'd catch the scent of his cologne in a stranger and feel my chest tighten. And worst of all, we rode the same bus. Yeah. The same damn bus. Every Thursday morning, he'd sit a few rows back, and I could feel his eyes on me like lasers, burning into the back of my neck. He never said anything, never approached. But he stared, always stared, like he was trying to haunt me, like he thought he still owned me. And every time I felt myself wanting to look back, to give him that one glance, that acknowledgement, I remembered the wristband. That pink, lying, sickening wristband. The thing that destroyed me and saved me. So I never looked, not once, even when my whole body ached to know if he still cared, if he was hurting, if he missed me. I reminded myself, he doesn't miss you. He misses the control. He misses the power. He misses how easily you forgave him, how hard you loved him, how much of yourself you gave him without asking for anything real in return. And the fire that used to be my love for him turned to ash. Because here's the thing they don't tell you. Some people aren't just bad partners. They are parasites. And I had been feeding him for months. With my time, my trust, my heart. I was the firewood for his ego, but not anymore. I remember the exact moment I realized I didn't love him anymore. It was quiet. No dramatic event. No screaming. No tears. I was sitting on the floor of my bedroom, scrolling through an old playlist. His playlist, the one we used to listen to on repeat, the one he played when he was trying to seduce me into forgetting all the pain. And I didn't feel anything. No ache, no rush, no nostalgia. Just silence. And that silence was beautiful, because for the first time in over 6 months, I wasn't longing for him. I wasn't checking for his name. I wasn't wondering if he was online. I wasn't playing what-if scenarios in my head, fantasizing about him begging for forgiveness, or showing up at my door with some grand speech about how he had changed. He wasn't in my head anymore. He wasn't in my heart. He was just gone. It was like I had finally cleaned the last corner of the room, thrown out the last rotting piece of him that had been infecting my soul. And I realized I had finally done what I thought was impossible. I had moved on. But then came the question I had been avoiding. Should I tell her? Should I try one more time to warn the girl whose house he lived in, whose wristband he wore, whose life he poisoned with lies just like he did mine? I had tried once before, right after I found out everything. I messaged her, told her the truth, laid it all out. Screenshots, details, timestamps. But she blocked me. Of course she did. He probably spun a story about me being a stalker, or an obsessed ex, or some psycho girl who couldn't handle rejection. And I didn't blame her, because I had been her in a way, believing every lie, trusting every fake smile, dismissing every red flag because I loved him, because I thought I knew him, because I thought he was mine. And now I knew. He didn't belong to anyone. He wasn't capable of belonging. He was a shapeshifter, chameleon, changing himself for whatever woman he wanted to use that week, feeding off love like a vampire feeds off blood, smiling with dead eyes, telling us all what we wanted to hear, making us feel special while hollowing us out piece by piece. So, should I tell her again? I thought about it for a long time, but I didn't. Not because I wanted to protect him, not because I wanted revenge, not even because I didn't care about her, but because I finally understood something. It's not my job to save someone who doesn't want to be saved. She chose to believe him, maybe because she loved him, maybe because the truth would destroy her, maybe because he gaslit her the same way he gaslit me. Whatever the reason, she made her choice, and I had to make mine. So I chose me. I chose my peace. I chose not to drown in someone else's disaster anymore. I still think about her sometimes, about how she's probably still cleaning up the messes he leaves behind, about how she might still believe he's just damaged or going through something, how she might still think her love will heal him, that she's the one, just like I did. I wish I could tell her that she's not the problem, that nothing she does will ever be enough, that he will never change, that every tender moment is just a tool in his manipulation toolkit, that one day she'll find the same kind of wristband evidence that I did, and it'll break her heart in half. But maybe she needs to find it herself, like I did, because some lessons don't sink in until they shatter you. Some spells don't break until you see the truth with your own eyes. And some men aren't heartbreakers, they're soul wasters. So here I am now, older, wiser, not healed, not completely, but healing. Every day I put more space between me and who I was when I met him. And every day, I love that girl a little more. The girl who thought love meant fixing someone. The girl who gave too much. The girl who deserved more than midnight visits and half-truths. I'm not ashamed of her. She was doing her best with what she knew. And now she knows better. Now she knows how to spot manipulation masked as charm. How to recognize when trauma bonding is just a trap. How to walk away from men who call themselves gods just because they have control over broken women. Now she knows what real love isn't. And that's the first step to finding what love really is. So if you're reading this and you've ever felt like I did, like you were the side girl, the afterthought, the maybe in someone else's story, let me tell you this. You are not the crazy one. You are not too much. You are not hard to love. You are just someone who gave your light to someone who only wanted to live in the shadows. But you're out of the shadows now, and you are never going back.